Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Free the Money. Today, I'm sitting down with the CEO of Zebec, Simon Babakhani, and to talk about how they are transforming payroll with instant real-time payroll. Welcome to the show, Simon.
Bree, thank you so much for having me today. And yeah, super excited to get into things with you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So just tell me a little bit about your background and how you got involved with Zebec.
Yeah, so I have more of what we call a TradFi background. I spent most of my career on Wall Street working with banks and large asset managers. And I discovered crypto kind of just out of personal interest about 10 years ago now. Um, and from there, the idea of Zebec was born. We always asked ourselves living in the US, why is it that everyone gets paid every 2 weeks or every month? Why can't payroll be in real time as workers, complete their tasks and deliver value? And the question always came down to the friction of payments. So how do you eliminate or reduce the friction of payments? That's how Zebec, born in the blockchain, came to be.
Wow, that's so powerful. And it's crazy how delayed ACH is and how this hasn't been transformed in many years. And you talk about how basically the way workers are paid these days is something totally from the past. And, it's amazing that we have companies like you that are really accepting this challenge. Would you say you started off originally with the idea of streaming and then you also got into, I know you have these silver and carbon cards. I am a big user of these cards. I think that's actually how I originally discovered Zebec. When I get paid in crypto or if I'm earning crypto, I usually load it onto these cards or I'm able to send them to friends and family. Can you tell me a little bit about these cards as well?
Yeah, well, it's great to hear that you're a happy user of the cards, because I really do believe that that they're the best in the market, and we have three cards for three different use cases. So no matter whether you want to have like a fully loaded debit card, you want to have a quick, simple instant card that you can use for everyday purchases, we deliver that as a back. But the genesis of the cards were really an extension of the payroll. We launched the back payroll now 3, 4 years ago, and the question people had at the time was, how could we spend our stablecoin payroll? Well,
Hmm.
back then it wasn't that easy to move money from cryptos to bank accounts like it is today. So we developed a suite of MasterCard products where you could seamlessly move your stablecoin payroll in seconds to a MasterCard. And at that point, Zebec effectively becomes a bank in your pocket, right? You're getting paid through Zebec in stables wherever you are in the world. And regardless of whether you have a bank account in Europe or the US or Asia, it doesn't matter because you're getting paid in USDC or other stable coins and you're spending it in real time on an Apple Pay or a Google Pay linked MasterCard.
So I listened to a podcast you did recently. I believe it was called the Stablecoin Podcast, and you just discussed how the United States really is the perfect economy for this because of the Genius Act. Can you talk a little bit about some of the hurdles you guys had to, get through in order to really be successful at this and to be compliant?
It's a great question because I would say that the Genius Act has transformed our business. It's been a night and day difference.
Hmm.
Previous to July, we would get a certain number of requests every month inbounds from companies that want to work with us. I'd say after the Genius Act passed, we've seen a 5 to 10 fold increase just in the number of requests. And it's obviously very hard for us to onboard all these clients. We can't work with everyone out there. There are some limitations. But overall, it's been a boon to the business. It's been great to see that the government is finally aligned with the
Hmm.
priorities of the economy, seeing that they need to upgrade the financial system in the US so that it can continue to be the global leader in finance. And for a couple of years there, we were worried that the US was going to fall behind, with all this
Hmm.
anti-crypto rhetoric, with banks not being able to work with crypto companies. Now it's completely the opposite, and we've had a step change for the industry.
That sounds very promising. And then how will the Clarity Act also affect Zebec?
Well, the Clarity Act is great for the industry because it's really going to clean it up. They're going to put some guardrails in place and guidelines for companies that have tokens, for market making, for exchanges. So what I think is going to happen is all this volatility that you see in the market these days and, price manipulation and all these
Hmm.
things that people hate about crypto, that'll get washed out of the market. And it'll be a lot more similar to what we see, in the stock market. And I think that's going to bring in a lot of retail investors and maybe even institutions that were a little bit scared of getting involved in crypto due to the volatility.
Yeah. Can you tell me why business owners would want to stream their payroll in real time rather than just doing it the traditional way?
Well, let's look at it from both, the demand side and the supply
Hmm.
side. So start on the demand side. Really, it comes down to employees. we're in an incredibly competitive labor market right now. And if one employer is offering daily pay, weekly pay, anything better than the 2 week cycle, that's instantly going to draw the best talent to that employer. So the employers, in many cases, view this as like an HR tool, as a recruiting tool to keep employees happy and productive. And from the employee side, it keeps them out of debt. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
we're living in one of the most inflationary periods in US history. People are having difficulty making ends meet. And one of the challenges of that is not getting paid as you do your work. So you cannot pay your expenses in real time. And people, as a result, they go to payday lenders or they go to, earned wage access companies where they pay then, a good amount of interest or fees to access what is really rightfully their own earnings. They're not really getting money before they've actually earned it. And that again goes back to why we started Zebec, because we felt that the system was not fair and it was punishing workers in a way that we did not see was fit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Competition will lead to these employers having to pay in real time. I saw that you guys are possibly going to be streaming payments with XLM or some type of partnership with Stellar. Is that true?
It is. So we've been working with Stellar now in a certain capacity for about a year and a half.
Wow.
Progress has been relatively slow as we've been focused on many other things in Zebec, but
Hmm.
we do see the value in the Stellar blockchain primarily because of Stellar's massive remittance network. So by plugging in Zebec payroll into Stellar's remittance network, we now open up Zebec payroll to hundreds of companies, thousands of users around the world. So if you're someone in the US who's getting paid by Zebec, and now you can send money at the click of a button to family and friends around the world, and they can cash it out in a brick and mortar location through StellarNet,
Hmm.
this increases the value of Zebec's network. And that's at the end of the day, our primary goal is to increase the value of our network through more volume, more users, more use case.
Do you see any other crypto networks that you would possibly be working with?
Well, we're definitely in talks with all the major payment networks. So going back to Stellar, there will be a major announcement in the next couple of weeks, potentially early January, depending on when the legal teams can finish the review. Inking the partnership between Zebec and Stellar and expanding our product base onto Stellar. This will be the first major chain expansion for us outside of the Solana blockchain, which is
Yeah.
our home. Of course, our card
Hmm.
products support 19 different chains right now, soon to be 20. But the payroll product, given that it's native to Solana, has always really just been on Solana. So Stellar will be the first step outside of that. And beyond Stellar, there's of course a few of the big names out there that we're also in talks with, which I've alluded to many times on spaces
Hmm.
during the year. We haven't been able to say anything on that until it's fully announced and fully done at the product. But I think into 2026, we're going to see a massive expansion for Zebec outside of its home in Solana.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so where does your token play into all of this? I know you guys have a native token. Can we talk about the role it plays now, and then as Zebec obviously continues to grow, the role it'll also play in the future?
So Zebec's native token is ZBCN. At the end of the day, it's an ecosystem token. So it is used throughout our ecosystem, whether that's payroll, whether that's cards. But what's most important is that it's a deflationary token. So it is clearly linked to the revenue of the company through our card program, where every dollar that's spent on the card program leads to a burning of a Zebec token through our buyback and burn mechanism. So as volumes have increased, more tokens have been taken out of supply. And then on the payroll side, it is used to reduce the fees of the payroll product. So by having Zebec, staking Zebec, you do reduce the fees on the payroll. So as both of those products grow, what happens is that the ZBCN tokens in circulation will slowly decrease and decrease with time.
This is actually where I really discovered what you guys were doing with payroll. The other day, I put out a post on X talking about an integration you guys now have with NatPay. And NatPay, for those of you who don't know, is a very large payroll processing company, and it is integrated with FedNow. It's ISO 222 compliant. Can we just talk about how important this is for Zebec?
Yeah, I think the NatPay integration may have been one of our most transformative partnerships of this year. And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't really know what NatPay is. It's not a
Hmm.
household name. It's a very much behind the scenes company. They're moving $170 billion through the ACH network in the US every year. and nobody's really talking about them because they're purely B2B. They work with businesses, they work with payroll companies, and they work with institutions. They move money. Typically, ACH has been done in a +2 model for payroll, for the past 50, 60 years in the US. NatPay's innovation is that they were the first company to join FedNow, and they launched a product called NatPay Now, which enables them to do payroll same day. This is huge for employers because
Wow.
employers no longer need to fund 2 days in advance. We're talking about hundreds of billions, if not trillions, in annual flow just through this 2 day savings, um, which is why we chose NatPay over all the other processors out there because they were aligned with our vision in Zebec for real time payroll. They are a member of FedNow. They're ISO 2022 compliant, which is a key milestone for Zebec this year, as well as we beef up our compliance. So it's really been a strong partnership in the few weeks now that we've been live. But next year, we're really going to expand our presence in US payroll. And a lot of the clients that are already working with NatPay will now easily be able to work with Zebec because we're already plugged in and integrated into their network.
Can you explain, just for the viewers watching, what that process looks like when companies would be streaming payroll when NatPay is integrated?
So they'll be using NatPay for essentially the on and the off ramp. So if they're going to be moving money into stables, NatPay will do
Hmm.
instant conversion through our partnership with Circle that has now created a USDC stablecoin, and then the streaming happens on Zebec Rails. For
Okay.
clients that want to do payouts, it's the same idea, but in the other order, right? You have USDC that you're receiving your payroll in, and then it can go to a bank account, whether that's a business bank account or an individual's bank account using NatPay's real-time ACH.
Obviously, anyone who follows me knows I'm very interested in XRP. I post a lot about XRP. And with that being said, obviously, I follow Ripple and I see everything that they're doing, all their quiet moves. And it's really interesting. When I came across Zebec and came across you, you reminded me a lot of Ripple with these very quiet moves that you guys are making and how big of an impact it's going to have in the future. Do people ever tell you this?
We hear it all the time, and we're very flattered because Ripple is a pioneer in our
Yeah.
industry and has led in payments for so many years. We've learned a lot from Ripple. We respect them immensely, and we're excited to be doing more and more with them.
Since they have been a pioneer in the space, how would you say they've influenced you over the years? Maybe how have you learned from them with what they've gone through, obviously with the SEC?
It's a great question. I mean, Ripple and Zebec are tackling similar problems. I mean,
Hmm.
Ripple's focus has mostly been institutional and B2B payments cross border, which were in a massive need of an upgrade. I mean, let's be
Hmm.
honest, right?
Yeah.
Why wait days to settle a business payment? How can you run a business that way? So, Ripple has made enormous strides in making that part of the financial sector a little bit more real time. And Zebec is tackling the payroll problem, right? Which is an $11 trillion industry, arguably even larger than B2B cross-border payments. Um, and it's in the same way a relic stuck in the past, right? Why are
Hmm.
we dealing with monthly or biweekly pay cycles when with today's technology, there's very little, if no incremental cost to pay people in real time on the blockchain? So that's, the analogies between the two companies. Obviously, Ripple has gone through its own SEC battle, which we've watched
Hmm.
from the sidelines, but we are also a US company, right? We're founded in the US.
Yeah.
Most of our team is in the US. Most of our clients are in the US. And because of that, we've had, to really watch and learn with what they've done to make sure that, we're in a compliant stage ourselves. And I think with, the change recently in the administration in the US and more pro crypto policies coming into place, we're in a very good spot right now as being a blockchain payroll leader in the US.
Amazing. So you guys are going to be launching your super app soon. Can you tell me about your super app and how everything will be in one place?
Yeah, so the Super App is going to be a step change increase for the Zebec product suite. I'm super excited about it. We're going to now finally have Zebec cards and Zebec payroll streaming under one roof. So users will be able to move funds seamlessly from their streams to their cards. They'll be able to on and off ramp. And just yesterday, we announced a super exciting integration with Stripe through their
Oh,
Privy
yeah.
wallet. So Stripe has their own blockchain wallet now, which will let users who don't have a wallet, for example, be able to use the Super App when Privy goes live because they'll now have a native wallet in it. And with Privy, it also opens the doors up to the Stripe ecosystem, right? And Stripe processes about 1.4 trillion a year in annual volume. And now users will be able to take stablecoins from the Zebec SuperApp and do payouts globally across the Stripe network. So let's say you're in a foreign country and you want to pay out to a debit card where we may not have a direct bank connectivity.
Hmm.
As long as it's a card that connects to the Stripe Visa or MasterCard network, the payout can easily occur in seconds.
What industries are you going to be seeing adopting this technology first?
Well, on the payroll side, we've seen a lot of traction in certain industries in the US. One has been healthcare, the other has been hospitality, and the third has
Hmm.
been logistics. Especially in the logistics industry, I mean, a lot of it is very mileage based, time based. So there's been a lot of real demand from the truckers and the people that are working at these logistic companies to have real time payment for their work that is tied to the number of hours they work or the miles they drive, and also have expenses paid through Zebec card. So that was one of our
Hmm.
first use cases, and we've built up a good portfolio of logistics clients over at our PayBridge
Wow.
business, which is based in Ohio. Um, but the super app, and I would call our card technology, it's mostly for retail users. So we've seen, a lot of growth in the cards just organically through word of mouth, through online discussions this year. But the super app is
Hmm.
going to improve the user experience so much more that you'll be able to see all your transactions and manage everything within a single app that I think growth next year is going to pick up exponentially.
What are some of the institutional companies you guys have been working with in 2025 and leading into 2026?
Great question. I'd say if you look at 2026, or sorry, 2025 in summation, given that we're at the end of the year now, one of the big themes for Zebec has been institutional partnerships, which in my view has been the best validation for our product and thesis that one could get. In September, we announced a partnership with Deutsche Bank's very own Euro
Mm.
stablecoin, which was our first full expansion to the EU, which was quickly followed by our MiCA certification as a company, which is super exciting. So I think into 2026, we're going to see more and more of these, tier one institutions working with Zebec, particularly as we go live with our ISO 2022 compliance by the end of this year, which is more of a green light for institutions to say that, well, Zebec is compliant to the highest
Hmm.
standards for payments globally. So they're more able to and comfortable working with us.
So, how behind is Europe in terms of stable coins compared to the US with adoption? Because I know, obviously, in America, we have now regulations regarding stable coins, but what do you see happening in 2026 with the majority of Europe?
It is safe to say that Europe is a little bit behind the rest of the world. I think if you look at statistics on stablecoin adoption, it's really Asia and the US that lead the way. Europe has been a bit heavy-handed in regulation, which is what they seem to do best. I think, putting the MiCA rules out very early
Hmm.
on gave people hope that there would be leadership in crypto in the EU. I think that has slowed a lot given the US has advanced so much this year. The UK is finally starting to get its act together, but we really don't do too much in the UK at this point outside of our
Okay.
science card business. Um, so I think, if we see, continued change in the US and other parts of the world, we're hoping that Europe will
Yeah.
catch up. But they do remain a little bit behind.
Speaking about the UK, a lot obviously is going on in the UK with digital ID and them creating a wallet that will basically
Mhm.
have everything from terms of healthcare to people's income in this one single app. How do you think this will affect what you guys are doing with real time payroll? Do you think this is going to be a big challenge for you? Do you think you'll ever be able to tap into the UK market?
One of our core beliefs at Zebec is that privacy is paramount to everything when it comes to your money. And we work now with a lot of privacy protocols because we view one of the big industry trends that are going to continue into 2026 is the demand for privacy, users'
Hmm.
control over their data. You don't want the whole world knowing how much you're getting paid, let alone having this all in a government app. So in short, I'd say no, we're not looking at integration there. We
Good.
believe the whole ethos of blockchain is about, your own freedom, your own privacy, being able to do what you want, with your funds. And Zebec is going to continue to build towards that vision. And we've seen that resonate really well in certain parts of the world, primarily the US,
Hmm.
where I think, people believe in our vision a lot more than potentially European countries where the government can be a little bit more heavy-handed in controlling its populations.
Yeah, you guys are an amazing company. I'm so impressed. And like I said, I came across you over the summer because I use your silver and your carbon cards, but you guys are doing so much more than even that. Can we just discuss too how important this is going to be for the average worker? You know, we talked about obviously people in America these days are living paycheck to paycheck, and it's very hard just making ends meet, but having more control over your money to even be able to invest it for these companies not to just be holding your money and creating interest. Can we just talk about how important this is going to be to the everyday person?
Well, it's going to be a paradigm shift in the way that we think about money as a people. I mean, right now, one of the biggest challenges for people to make ends meet is simply the 14-day budgeting period between when they receive their paycheck to their next paycheck. And this will eliminate this. And I think you're going to see, a decline in the consumer finance business, which is essentially just lived off the fact that people are
Mhm.
having trouble making ends meet. So as we grow market share, as we grow adoption, we're going to see, a big reduction in the fees and the interest that are paid by everyday people. And to my hope, we're going to see, a better quality of life for all Americans and people around the world that use Zebec.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about ZBCN. What type of market cap do you think we could possibly see, just, based off pure speculation in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, our community has just grown month over month, which is really a testament to all the hard work that our team is doing to deliver, top level partnerships, product expansions, and we take a lot of care in making sure that the community is updated on all of our great progress. So we host spaces, I think, more frequently than almost any crypto company out there, which again is something I'm really proud of because I think communication is the most important thing when you have, hundreds of thousands of people that are technically all holders and investors in the
Mhm.
ZBEC ecosystem. It's incredibly important to keep everyone up to date on, the company, our strategy, and our roadmap.
Mhm.
So please continue to expect more spaces coming from us. We'll have a roadmap spaces in January. We have a stablecoin summit that we're working on, and I think we'll be even announcing a spaces later today with Stripe and Privy, which is going to be at the end of the week. So everyone stay tuned for that. In terms of price talk, I'm sure that's one of the number one things on everyone's mind. I cannot speak about it. I will not speak about it. At the end of the day,
Okay.
we're here to build product. We're here to build a company. The price of the token obviously is a validation of our success, but at the same time, it is also at the whims of the market, which are completely out of
Mhm.
our control. I do feel really good about 2026. I know what is in our pipeline. I've seen the growth this year, so I'm expecting us to see, um, very, very strong performance next year.
Okay, great. Just had to ask.
I
I'm a
know.
I'm a ZBCN holder, so, you know, just curious. Yeah, you guys do amazing spaces. That's one thing that I've noticed you do, I think, better than any other company I follow. You really keep your entire base informed of partnerships and really what's going on, and I really admire that. I think it's amazing what you guys are doing, and you really are bringing more power to the everyday person, especially through these difficult times. Well, is there anything else you would like to share with my community about Zebec and what you guys are doing?
Well, if anyone in your community is a hockey fan or a basketball fan, Zebec has been a season sponsor of 6 teams. We had a little bit of a slow start, given that we were the first crypto project to ever advertise in the NHL. So it took us a couple weeks to get all of the ads approved by the league, but they are now going live. We had a game in St. Louis about a week and a half ago. We had a game. We have a game coming up on Thursday night in Minnesota. We're going to be sponsoring the Wild for a couple games, so you'll see our ads up there next to our partners at Uphold, which
Yeah.
is our preferred U.S. exchange, where a lot of people buy and hold Zebec tokens. So it was a match made in heaven. So keep an eye out for more hockey games and NBA games. We'll be posting that from our Twitter. And then for any of our soccer fans, we are going live with European football in February. We will be sponsoring the German Bundesliga. So all the top teams in Germany will be sponsoring
Wow.
for the month of February onwards as we're kind of in the second half of their season. So for all of our European users, please stay tuned. But this is really a statement, a testament to Zebec's global ambitions. I mean, the US is our home, but we do want to take over the world and become a
Yeah.
household name everywhere you go.
Everyone should have the right to real-time payroll. I do actually want to ask you one other
Exactly.
thing. So I have seen that you do have a partnership with Uphold. Can you touch a little bit more on that?
Yes, so our Uphold partnership has evolved over the year. I mean, at first they were really an exchange and a wallet platform that users could buy and hold Zebec tokens in. Since then, it's morphed into a bigger institutional partnership where we now custody part of the Zebec treasury on Uphold. And then the third wave has been something that we
Mm,
announced in October, which is the direct deposit program, which is our way of giving back to the Uphold community. So if you are someone that deposits your paycheck in the US into
mhm.
Uphold through their direct deposit program, you will get a bonus in XRP tokens
Oh,
and
wow.
Zebec tokens. Yes.
Wow.
So if you're somebody that wants to get, to build your bags and build your
Mhm.
investments in these tokens, this is a great program for you. It runs through the end of the year officially. But I know in 2026 we have another big promotion plan with Uphold.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, I was hearing about this program recently. Actually, my brother told me about that, and I found it really interesting. But honestly, I forgot to do more research on what Uphold was doing. So that's great information that people can look more into, and I hope that continues in 2026.
Absolutely will.
Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all the information about what you're doing with Izabek to my audience. I really appreciate it. Can you tell us where everyone could follow you and follow Zabek to learn more?
Find us on Twitter. I mean, we post updates every day. Join one of our spaces to really get into the details about what we're building at Zebec. Research our token. It's listed on many global exchanges as well as a few in the US, including Uphold. Um, and we welcome anyone to join our Telegram groups, our Discord groups, our Twitter spaces,
Mhm.
so that they can feel like they're part of the Zebec community and really become part of this grassroots movement that we have to change payroll for the better. Thank you, Bree. This is great. Appreciate having me on.